Shut up and sit down.
Welcome back to Off the Ropes, and I'm here, your boy Super What Snooker, and my partner in crime from Nolans, the Faded Saint. And today we bring to you the topic of the latest pay-per-view, Payback. And of course, we're going to talk about a couple other things along that road, which was right afterwards, and that was the best pay-per-view, I would probably say, of the whole situation, NXT Takeover, Unstoppible. I can tell you this much: it's going to be an exciting night of discussion of anything that's going on with wrestling in the WWE universe, and of course, a couple of things that we might want to talk into topic about the reveal of the plot twist at the end of Unstoppable, which will go later. Once again, it is Kane Super What Snooker, the 16-time IWA champion, and here's my boy, the Faded Saint. How you doing today, Fate?
Hey, I can't complain. We've gotten a really good, solid week of wrestling so far. We're missing SmackDown to record this, but let's be honest, who really watches SmackDown?
You know what? I can tell you this much: Pappy Snooker does, and I tell him, "Pappy, why do you watch SmackDown?" He goes, "Son, I'll tell you why I watch SmackDown. I watch SmackDown for the goods, the wrestling part. I can tell you this much: if you want to watch your little story time, your little tchotchkes, like your midday afternoon, like Grandma Smacky, like Grandma Snooker used to do, then you could just go ahead and watch. All right, I'll do that. You do what you got to do."
Well, Paul Heyman has gone on record that saying it was the bitch show, and it was one of the hardest things he had to do when he was in charge. So, Uncle Paul would know.
I can tell you this much: I know, and you know what? His house at Suplex City, but he's got to get himself out of that town and come back to the WWE Universe, even without Brock Lesnar, just to show some face, maybe build some character. But you know what? I digress, because we have a lot to talk about, and we're going to talk right now about that pre-show that happened in Payback.
Okay. Well, first of all, we need to address something real fast and get this out of the way. We're not going to be doing a podcast for the next pay-per-view because they sprung one up on us over the in the lead up to this pay-per-view. 2 weeks from the last pay-per-view, they're doing Elimination Chamber. So we're going to do a big super show to cover the two pay-per-views next time. But now going in, we had that pre-show, and we were talking earlier, and they snuck a match by you, didn't they, Kane?
Quick, before we get into that, since you did bring it up now, yes, folks, just want to let you know, Elimination Chamber and Money in the Bank will be a super show for us here at Off the Ropes. Real quick, though, Fan and Sid, I know you would know this more than anybody, because, the internet sometimes in the parts unknown, goes unknown in the does NXT also have a glorious pay-per-view that month?
Nope. NXT's pay-per-views are every 2 months. So 2 months from this last one, we'll have another NXT pay-per-view.
When you remind people, but you know who I got to remind. Give me 1 second. Check it! But on to that pre-show when it comes to how it is. The first definitely thing that happened right there was that R-Truth versus Bingy.
Yeah, R-Truth versus Stardust, and like I said, they snuck that one past you. When we were doing our pre-show discussion, yeah, I don't even think you even knew that had happened. And, well, all you really need to know about this match, R-Truth won. It happened. It was a thing that happened. That's pretty much all you need to know about that.
Now, let me ask you a question, because I know that I missed it. I don't know how that happened, because I did watch the next pre-show match, which was the best one of them all in this case, for pre-shows go. But in this case, what I'm talking about here, were they trying to convert Stardust back into Cody Rhodes again?
The announcers were saying that he needed to go back and do it, but I don't see them doing it. I don't see a clear storyline for him. I just don't get it.
I hope he gets Mr. Sinister Stardust the whole time, because I love him.
Right on. But
well, let's talk about. Oh yeah, Meta Power.
Oh, this is another match of just poor Damien Sandow. He's so much better than this match. And they paired him with the Ascension, who we've both gone on record as saying their gimmick is stupid. And I don't get why they're still a thing, but apparently they are. And we had a nice little, what was it? It wasn't even 3 minutes long, with Curtis Axel doing his Hogan impression, Damien Sandow doing his Macho Man impression. I think they're turning that he almost gets the elbow off, but doesn't really. I think that's like the stick, because that's twice now. He's almost gotten that elbow off and just not pulled it off.
I agree. The fact that who he's impressed in this case for the Meta Powers tag team. Of course, you had to do it, just like how Axel had to try to do very much Hogan could have done. But I can tell you this much: we got to take a one-stepper back here right now, folks, because I could have swore about a month ago when the Miz and him had that big blowout and he lost that match and he became Sandow now. He said that this is him, and yet he making copycats of himself. I don't know what's going on with that.
I don't know what's going on with it either. It's all rather annoying. I would prefer to see Damien Sandow himself as opposed to seeing this. It was. It was. Cute.
I definitely agree. Because when it comes to how he does it now, I gotta say one big thing. I liked his first match after he became Sandow. I liked he had the opponent's injuries and stuff because it was humorous. But him going into complete meta again, like the Macho Man thing, we gotta go back. Pump the brakes there, Sandow. We gotta work it back.
Bring it on back. Well, Ascension over Meta Powers, less than 3 minutes. And then that brought us to the pay-per-view proper. And we started off Payback with a little bit of Payback in itself, and that was the Sheamus versus Dolph Ziggler, no frills, no nothing, just a match. And it was all right. I mean, the match itself was what you'd expect out of the two. It wasn't special, it wasn't super, it was serviceable, except right there at the end when Dolph apparently went all Super Saiyan and decided to headbutt Sheamus so hard he opened his own forehead up.
Mm-hmm. Now, the only thing I had to say when it comes to that match is that because of the fact that in this case, when it comes to Extreme Rules and how everything was done, it looked like that Sheamus was gonna do some serious turnovers in Payback. Meanwhile, the real Payback was just a regular match, and in this case, Sheamus won naturally. He didn't do anything facetious like a dirty deed move or something. But no, it was just all like, I'm gonna have a match, and nobody knows that we're facing each other. We're just doing things, and bro kick, I win.
Yep, I mean it was clean, and I guess when you consider Dolph won the match last month, they're 1-for-1 now, so good on them. I'm not looking forward to another month of this, but at least they're gonna be in that elimination chamber, both of them next month, so there'll be some distraction from it. But I just have this aching feeling that we're gonna end up with another Sheamus and Dolph match, and hopefully they'll have something to actually make it a blow-off match and something really good, because I know these guys are better than this.
Yes, and in this case, it leads into the great match of the most, I would say, the most stereotypical results of, and that was the big match of New Day versus Kid Cesaro team.
2 out of 3 falls, and I'm going to go on a little mini rant here. WWE,
please do. Address America like I do.
WWE, specifically WWE, if you're going to have a 2 out of 3 falls match, don't give them just the time for a regular match and then truncate the first two falls in the first 5 minutes. Give them actually the 30 minutes. These guys could have very easily have anchored this pay-per-view down. They could have gone 30, 45 minutes without breaking a sweat. And don't get me wrong, the match was still great, but I feel like it would have been even better than great. It could have been a contender for match of the year if they had let it go a little bit longer. They should have just done the one fall. And just not bothered with the other 2 falls if they weren't going to give it enough time. That being said,
spread the pinfalls out, definitely.
That being said, this was a really, really great match. It was another send up to last month. Cesaro basically once again was the star of this match, picking up right where he left off, showing how strong he is, just throwing everyone around. Like, it's phenomenal how strong this dude is. The way he was throwing Big E around. And, Tyson Kidd definitely getting his licks in. Kofi and Big E have gone through a freaking career resurgence thanks to this new heel turn of theirs. And the first fall went to Kidd and Cesaro. Did they do? They did the springboard uppercut, if I remember correctly, to get that fall. The psychology of the match after that was New Day basically sidelined Cesaro on the outside of the ring and then beat the crap out of Kidd until they hit him with the flying elbow / big ending, which led into the third fall, which was the meat of the match. And we were talking over Messenger while this match was going, and the end of this match kind of caught me off guard. And it was one of those things where, if you've ever watched a luchador match, especially with a tag team that wears the exact same thing, sometimes they'll pull the old switcheroo. They've done it with Jimmy and Jey Uso also, and they're twins, so that makes sense. They did it with the Bellas, like way back in the day. That are twins, that makes their sense. And Xavier Woods just slides in out of nowhere and gets the pin, and the way they did it was actually kind of ingenious because the referee could only see Tyson Kidd's shoulders and couldn't see that it was Xavier Woods and not Kofi. But I don't know, it felt a little bit racist to me. I know I made that joke. I was like, wait a minute, what was that? Was that racist? Were they trying to say that all black people look the same? Apparently I was the only one that got it. And you know what? Big ups to them. It was actually a pretty slick move there, but at the same time, it was just kind of one of those. That could have gone so wrong for them. It would have been so easy for somebody to just get on them about that, but they didn't. What are your thoughts of the match?
Well, I gotta tell you this much. As far as I love my Freebird tag team that's going on right now, as the 17-time IWA champion, that was a little crude. I think that when it comes to how everything was going, the match was over. But if they're going to do this heel stuff, they got to think of funnier stuff to do there, because when it comes to them popping in and exactly ship away right then and there by pretending he's Kofi Kingston, that just makes everyone think that they think all black people look alike, and we know that's not true.
We know.
So we got to work on that a little bit, WWE.
No,
but other than that, I liked it.
Yeah, they explained it away very, very well. And if you look at it, they were right in position, so that when the announcer said, "Oh, the referee couldn't see his face; all he could see was the tights." It's like, okay, I'll buy it. And everyone else did, and that's fine. But I will point out that even Xavier Woods, in between fall number 1 and fall number 2, tried to get in, into the match and pull one of his guys out, and he started yelling, Freebird rule, right over there on the side. I thought that was pretty awesome. So,
that's true. And in this case, when it comes to how everything went, I have to say, though, the next match was the big letdown. I mean, in fact, when it comes to how, everything was going and how we had this big build-up for Bray Wyatt to take down Ryback, and even though Bray won, I felt it could have just been done on Raw.
Well, there was one problem with that match. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, and it might be why the match wasn't up to our expectations, and that was that, and now this is strictly speculation, that Ryback was working most of that match with a broken rib. You know that little spot where he jumped, where he did that senton off of the apron onto the floor, right onto Ryback?
Mm-hmm.
Apparently he popped a rib off when he did that.
Sweet Lord.
So when we saw Ryback actually gasping for air, the poor dude was actually gasping for air. So, I mean, that was really convincing, and now we kind of know why. They could do better, and I hope they do better going forward. Ryback is another one of those guys who's in that Intercontinental, so hopefully he heals enough, because I'm not sure if putting a guy with a broken rib inside of the Elimination Chamber in a week and a half is really such a great idea.
Well, we're gonna definitely find out. I hope they just don't do a Day of Tommy kind of thing and have like a found footage situation like we did on. Instead, we're just gonna have to pray for that now.
Yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully not. But I mean, pretty much Bray Wyatt goes over Ryback. It was a nice physical match. They could have done better. They absolutely could have done. They absolutely could have done better. But you know, if Ryback was indeed working with a broken rib, you know, I won't hold that against him. However,
now, other than that, I mean, when it comes to everything and how it goes, you know, if we could see a little bit more results with Bray Wyatt like he's been doing, instead of losing his matches when he does these call-outs, I think we're going to have a little bit more promising for that Face of Fear, though.
I hope so. I hope so. I mean, they've put Harper and Rowan back together. I keep hoping they're gonna attack them back on to Bray, and we'll get the Wyatt clan again. So hopefully that'll become a thing soon. But like I was about to say, although I can't fault that match if Ryback was indeed injured. Oh God, this next match.
Well, I gotta talk about this real quick because when it comes to addressing America, we need to talk. We need to close this chapter from WrestleMania 31. America, you know how I feel about John Cena. A good wrestler and all that and everything. I can promise you that. But goddamn, that man is more vanilla than the vanilla bean ice cream you can get at any other restaurant. As Baskin Robbins flavors, and I can tell you this much: as horrible as that joke I just made, it is nearly as horrible and boring as these matches between Rusev. So I gotta promise you, America, that when it comes to what's going on right now, this better goddamn be the very last time John fit with Rusev, and Rusev has a girl fit with Cena, and that's it. And Raw showed a little bit of promise, so we'll get into that. But I could tell you this much: the Cena Rusev match that it is has to have come to a close because I don't know if I could put any more on it.
Well, and you can attest to this, Kane. You absolutely can attest to this. I called the end of this match before the match started, and I explained why. And this is my issue with the match. They had the match at WrestleMania, which was a great match. They had the match last month at Who's It's, whatever the name of that pay-per-view was. I've already forgotten it. Yeah, it's Extreme Rules. That's it. And the stupid bull rope match, which really the stipulation served to hurt the match. And then they were going to be like, well, we're going to have an I Quit match. And although I get why the bull rope doesn't work in PG era WWE, the I Quit match absolutely works. And I have no idea. This match could have been great, and there was some decent action in here. But that freaking referee, just every 5 seconds, do you quit? Do you quit? Do you quit? It was way.
It was kind of like the ref was an alarm clock, and John Cena and Rusev kept on pressing the snooze button every time he asked.
I mean,
that's how it was.
That referee just killed all of the momentum for this match. All of it. Every last bit of it. And I mean, like I said, the match was okay. And in the bits where they actually got to wrestle some without, you know, the referee butting in, it was actually pretty decent. But what can you say? You can't beat Superman. And
but you can definitely enjoy the Star-Spangled Rusev that moment.
Oh, God. I mean, and there was really only one way this match was ever going to end. And I can't believe that the WWE built Rusev up for over a year just to serve him up to John Cena 3 times in a row. 3 clean, well, I don't know if you can call this last one clean, but 3 clean victories. And they've just cut Rusev's legs out from under him. And like I said, there was only one way that this match could end that would be able to salvage Rusev, and that was Lana actually had to be the one to say, I quit. And
well, I think that's why I have to disagree with you here when it comes to serving him, because you've got to look at the track record from when we go all the way back. The WrestleMania, before WrestleMania, that was Fastlane, which in its own was a very terrible pay-per-view. He did the best possible thing you could do to John Cena, make him pass out and lose to that. And then we go into WrestleMania with a good, clean match where Rusev, but the last 2 times were actually out of the hands of Rusev. If you think about it, look at it this way now. Faded saying, when you see that known as, or in this case, the old-fashioned blue rope matches. If John Cena ran around the ropes and just hit those four corners, then technically Rusev didn't beat him, made him lose. And in this case, this one, even though, which I don't get why we will allow the manager to allow this to be. Technically, once again, Rusev was out of the development. Even though he was speaking a different language and furtively saying "I quit" in Hungarian, it still didn't mean it. It's supposed to when it comes to an American show. I don't get why Lana has the privilege to do that. But in this case, other than that, now when it comes to how he's still once again out of his hands, and I think that's the best way you can give Rusev the ability to still be a Titan and lose to someone like John Cena.
Well, time will tell. Personally, I feel that they just screwed that poor kid over. I really do. Yeah, I mean,
Monday Night Raw, I can tell you that.
Just in general, I mean, if you had put anyone in this situation that was not John Cena, then I would be singing a different tune. If this was Dolph Ziggler, or if this was Sheamus, or if this was Ryback, or if this was Bray Wyatt, or if this was Neville, or if this was Wade Barrett, any one of those guys, I would not feel the same way. Even Cesaro or Kid or any one of the members of New Days, any one of those guys, and I wouldn't feel the same way. And the reason why is that John Cena did not need someone fed to him. John Cena did not need to beat Rusev 3 times. And as you said, Rusev actually didn't beat John Cena back at Fastlane. He made him pass out. John Cena did not do the job. He didn't tap out. He was not pinned. So ask yourself this. Has John Cena really done a service to this kid that they built up as a monster? Just going through everyone. Mark Henry, Big Show, Jack Swagger, some other guy I'm forgetting at some point, I'm sure. Back to Jack Swagger again. And then he comes up against John Cena and makes him pass out once and then 3 consecutive losses. I don't see how
we're gonna only find out. I mean, here, if anything, if they're doing it on purpose, they're probably trying to debunk the train about how Rusev always has to win with his unbeatable streak. So, well, Tom's gonna tell, because I can't talk about it anymore about him, because I feel like we gotta close this chapter on him right now.
Yeah, I can't deal with another one of these matches.
We're just gonna go ahead and just say the Divas had a match again, and we're just gonna move on to the next one.
For those of you keeping score at home, Tamina and what's her name? Naomi, that won. It was a thing that happened.
Now, folks, I just want to point out, in case there actually are the 5 viewers that watch this show,
we're up to 6.
We're up to 6. Oh Lord, we're not sexist, and I'll tell you why. Because we do love women wrestlers, and we don't like to gawk at them, even though they're very pretty. And Triple H said it best: just because you have a pretty face doesn't mean that you're a good wrestler. And in this case, the reason why I say this is because me and the Faded Satan personally think that NXT's women's division is more worth talking about than any of the divas that are going on in the WWE.
They don't get the main roster divas don't get enough time, and all of their storylines are based around Total Divas, the TV show, and that's our problem. Generally uninteresting. They don't give them enough time to make a compelling match. Really, the Divas match is always a palate cleanser and a bathroom break, and it's a shame because I like a lot of them, but it is what it is. But that moves us on.
Especially one more thing, and one more little rant there. Especially when you have 3 pay-per-views in a row where they don't defend the Divas Championship. It was just all tag teams.
It has been 3 pay-per-views, hasn't it? Fastlane was the last time. No. She did defend against
Extreme
Naomi.
Rules.
At Extreme Rules. That was a title defense. No one cared, but it was a title defense.
Hold on 1 second. Damn it! Right order, woman. Damn. Sorry about that. You know how it is.
No worries. It happens. But that's going to move us right along to a match between 2 guys that you could just keep serving us up. Here's a match that I don't mind seeing. I do not mind seeing another 20 times. Go ahead, keep giving us Neville and King Barrett.
Oh, hail King Barrett.
Wow, man, is he taking that? Is he just taking that and just running with it?
You know what I appreciate the most about that now, Saint Saint, is how he rubs it in Jerry Lawler's face on SmackDown.
Oh yeah, totally,
And
totally.
he's the
But
actual king and all that.
I have to say though, this match was not up to par for them. It was not. It was a great match right up until the finish, and the finish pissed me off. That was some bullshit. That's what that was. I mean,
Not as much as bullshit as Neville almost winning the United States Championship, and then Rusev coming up and screwing that up now.
yeah, that was on SmackDown the previous week. Not almost as much BS as my power going out right before that match started, or right before the ending of the match. Like literally,
poor
Neville
child.
took the dive out of the ring, and I lost freaking power. And so the next thing I get because I was talking to Kane on the phone was, "Oh, that's BS." I'm like, "Don't tell me, don't tell me."
Yeah, that was a horrible ending, and I gotta tell you, as far as it goes, a redemption match the day after was definitely well worth it.
It was. Neville over Barrett by countout. Barrett just decided not to get back in the ring. He cheap shots Neville and beats him up for a little bit. Gets his fancy little cape on, and then Neville comes in and just lays him out. Good ending to good ending for good ending in the end. The finish of the match sucked, but that finally leads us in to the 4-way match. My man Dean Ambrose versus your man Randy Orton versus no one's man Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins, who had about 4 other guys out there helping him, and
Plus Kane.
and plus Kane, but but. This was a really great match. This was a really great match. It showed everyone's strengths. The psychology of the match early on was everyone beat up Seth, which I'm fine with. And Seth,
And then everyone beat up on Orton.
yep. And then Kane comes out, and then it's just having to beat down J&J Security and having to beat down Kane while trying to beat down everyone else. And we got for a brief second, the return of the Shield with a triple powerbomb on Orton. And then poor Seth. I don't know what happened to all of that intelligence, but he should have just run right then because he was like, "Oh yes, let's do the Shield thing." And then they do the double power bomb to him and Kane twice because the Spanish announce table did not break the first time. And I said it when I was watching it, and you had already watched it. From just the little interaction after that we had from Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns, everyone else is dead, so it's just us. So, and if you caught it, you heard Dean Ambrose say, "So, loser buys the beers," and then they get in the ring. I want that match to happen. That needs to be a title match in the future.
I agree, good sir. And I have to say though, as the attorney of wrestling for Mr. Randy Orton, I must protest on his behalf about how such BS of a match was on his situation, because Randy Orton barely got good sight in that match, especially since early on they decided to turn themselves into the Shield for a little bit and superpower bomb him right into the table.
Man, I mean, Randy did some good stuff, but I mean, he did the job because after all the craziness had lifted, Seth Rollins, via the pedigree, because he's not allowed to use the curb stomp anymore, via the pedigree, managed to get it. And I think that was the perfect ending, especially with him having gone through the last month and a half without a finisher. For those of you that don't know, they've decided to put the real-life people behind the scenes have put the kibosh on him doing the curb stomp because of some concussion litigation that's going on in the background there. And so he's really kind of tried out a bunch of moves. That's why I found out that's why they did that finish with the RKO, which I still say they should have planned better. But I think, him being Triple H's protege and him doing the pedigree is a logical conclusion. Granted, and I think you'll agree with me here, that was the crappiest pedigree I think I've ever seen in my life. That was a god-awful pedigree.
actually, if you didn't know, they banned the original pedigree as well. That's why this one looks like more of a fancier DDT between the legs.
It was a thing. But I mean,
Mhm.
overall, it was a pay-per-view. It was a thing that happened.
Here, I might want to touch base on that much later at the end of the conversation about what the future's like. But I do notice that since the WWE Network, two things: one, they lost the flavor and zazz to make ring Titantrons anymore. So everything is the same except for the digital wall part where they put the pay-per-view that's supposed to be on going on. And I noticed another thing now is that they're making them just here's that other thing next 2 weeks we're gonna bring some new problem. We're not gonna keep any long term battles anymore, and the only exception to that rule right now is that Rusev Cena thing, and that's gonna be gone now. So we're gonna see how that goes after this.
I hope to God that this is just a marketing ploy to get people to buy the network, because I remember the days of 18 pay-per-views a year, and that was. I mean, if you're paying for the network, it's not as bad. Back in the day when they were expecting you to shell out $40 to $50 every 3 weeks for a pay-per-view at some points in the year, it was brutal, man. And that's just not enough. If they're going to do multiple pay-per-views, they need to do the brand split again, or they need to just come up with a new show and put some of the more major wrestlers that maybe aren't getting as much attention.
Well, that's the odd thing, because we all know they have dark matches and stuff, but we do have technically 4 shows that happen for wrestling. The 2 main ones, of course, are Raw and SmackDown, and then the next 2 are main event and Superstars.
Yeah, and main event they don't even care about, because they replaced main event last month, one of the main events with the King of the Ring tournament, which I'm fine with. But I mean, it's just like, I mean, again, this is probably a marketing ploy because they have all of their pay-per-views out, and I really think that the Elimination Chamber thing they did last minute, because when they announced it, it was not on their pay-per-view schedule, and it was not scheduled to be something that they were going to do. If you looked at their live events, they pulled that pay-per-view out of their asses. So, but hopefully that will be that, and like I said, we're gonna bundle that in with Money in the Bank, and hopefully that's not going to be freaking overload. But at any rate, that brings us to the end of the pay-per-view. So Kane, on a letter grade scale.
Letter grade now. I like that number.
I like the letter grade. I think it gets it's a little bit easier. So, letter grade scale. What do you give this year's Payback?
Well, to be very, 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 very honest, I would actually, if it was no Fatal 4-Way, I would give this pay-per-view a D, as in don't do it again. But because of the 4-Way, I'm gonna have to give it a C+.
See, I hate being Russia. I hate being Russia in these things, but honestly, the only thing that saved this pay-per-view was the 4-Way and the tag team match. And I'm sorry, when you have a 7-match pay-per-view and only 2 of them are really stand out, that's not average. That's they could have done this over the course of a Raw. So D+, I'll give it. D+.
All right.
I'm sorry. Sheamus Dolph, not stellar. Bray Ryback working with an injury, all right. Cena Rusev killed it. Yeah, if they had done that one match better, we may be looking at a B. But that was the most hyped match on the card, and it fell so hard. So, but that brings us to the end of this segment. We're going to go on a break. When we come back, we are going to do a quick Raw recap, and we're going to talk about NXT TakeOver that happened this last week. So,
AKA the true pay-per-view.
The real pay-per-view, yeah, no kidding. And I've probably got something queued up here, some nice little musical mashup, because that seems to be what you kids like, all 6 of you. And we will see you on the other side of the break.
See you soon, folkies.
On behalf of Kane Snuka and myself, the Baden Saint, we would like to thank bensound.com for our opening and closing theme. And this week we have for you a mix of Latin American theme songs. So we have WWE, Rey Mysterio versus Alberto Del Rio versus Epico and Primo versus Eddie Guerrero. Viva la Latinos.
¡Viva la raza! He's kicking your ass. Come on. Kicking your ass. Come on. Tú eres la tierra que me vio nacer. Lo que tengo es sangre boricua. Y a nosotros nadie nos imita. A Puerto Rico nadie lo duplica. Donde está caliente, el sol azotando la playa y la bella mujeres. Suave, romántico pero salvaje y atractivo. Cuando llueve el olor, la lluvia yo respiro. Nuestra isla es la más exótica en este mundo. De todas partes vienen a visitarla. Ella es atractiva. Por eso le dicen la isla bonita, por eso yo le canto que todos los boricuas levanten la mano. Hoy vamos a poner la bandera en alto, a que no le guste, yo se la reparto.
And welcome back to Off the Ropes with Kane Snuka and the Faded Saint. I'm your boy, call me the Faded Saint, and we would like to thank our sponsor this week, Suplex City. They're doing a discount this week, actually. If you fly to Suplex City, you can get 2 Germans for the price of 1.
Ba-dum-bum.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that was worse than my vanilla joke.
Yes, it was. We're trying to see how bad we can go. And,
yes.
Well, now that we're back, we can get into, well, what's happened basically between the pay-per-view and right now, not including SmackDown. And we're going to really kind of breeze over Raw. There were only 3 real things that happened of note on Raw. The first is that we found out who all of the competitors for the Elimination Chamber, the Intercontinental Championship Elimination Chamber was going to be. And that was Sheamus, that was Ryback, Rusev, Dolph Ziggler, King Barrett, and who was number 6?
I think we combed over one because Dolph Ziggler was the last one to announce.
Yeah, I missed one somewhere in there, but
I definitely think we did there because when it comes to the Elimination Chamber for the IC belt, we have, in this case, a good amount of people that are there. I know definitely one thing is my boy Neville. I can tell you that much. So in this case, when it comes to how it is, actually the 2 announcements was definitely that and the tag team elimination chamber teams when it comes to who's going to be there and everything else too. So that's going to be an interesting situation for everybody there. But let's look at the recap one more time about who is going on for that right now, and that is there's the tag team and the Intercontinental. The in this case, the tag team elimination chamber is going to be Ryback, Sheamus.
you mean the IC? You said tag team.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
In this case, hold on one second now. Johnny! Intercontinental! Sorry about that. You know how it is.
Yeah.
But in this case, the Intercontinental belt for the Elimination Chamber is going to be Ryback, Sheamus, Dolph Ziggler, King Barrett, Rusev, and R-Truth.
Oh, that's the one I missed. R-Truth.
Oh, once again, firm in the belief. Now, the one as much as I like the IC belt, I'm really more excited to understand and conceptualize how a tag team elimination chamber is going to work when you got the Luchador Dragons, the Primetime Players, the Freebirds, of course, the Matadors, and you got Kid Cesaro. That is.
Don't forget about the Ascension.
Interesting situation.
The Ascension somehow managed to snake their way into that match as well.
That was the first person I said, didn't I?
I thought you missed it. I don't know.
Well, you know what? We're gonna only recording could tell in this case, folks. But in this situation here, when it comes to how everything's going, that is the more interesting match I'm looking forward to that Raw has really put out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tag, so many bodies. It kind of scares me a little bit as to what's going to happen.
It's got to be two people in the same chamber. I have to assume that when someone let go, they're all going to be in there. So it's going to be the biggest. It's going to be the biggest single group of people that you could ever see.
You're going to have 12, possibly 13 people if Xavier Woods can find his way in there. That's going to be. That's either going to be really good or really bad.
I would love. I mean, if you look at the picture, and in this case, folks, you might see it when we do our announcements here. If you look at the picture, the New Day does have all three. As a matter of fact, Xavier Woods even has the tag team belt on his shoulder, as well as Kofi Kingston and Big E. So there's 3 belts for this tag team that's shown in the picture of the Elimination Chamber window.
He is actually credited on the website. All 3 of them are credited as the tag team champions.
Yeah, I don't blame him in this case, but if you look at the picture of the New Day, all 3 of them are holding the 2 tag team belts. So someone got photoshopped pretty well into that one.
Yeah. And actually, we said 3 things, and I really meant 4 things, because before we get to, obviously, what the championship match that we're going to, Kevin Owens showed up for John Cena's challenge, didn't he? And then he punked John Cena out.
Well, let's say he didn't address that. He was more pissed that he was the reason why his shoulder started hurting. And you know how Kevin Owens is. He's got to be like Gollum to the ring. Sami Zayn is his precious. And if anyone hurts the precious, it's him. So nobody hurt anybody. Only Kevin Owens did. And he was pretty pissed at John Cena saying that he hurt him. So that's the main reason why he was there.
Yeah, well, it's an official match now, actually. Cena versus Owens, U.S. title on the line. At Elimination Chamber.
Now, folks, I'm going to tell you this much. That has to be right now my most desired match, and not because it's Kevin Owens versus John Cena, and not because it's in an Elimination Chamber. It's because we definitely know for sure that there is no more Rusev Cena.
Thank the Lord. That was our biggest fear going out of the last pay-per-view. But, I mean, hooray for that. I kind of wonder what they're going to be doing with that, because obviously they're not going to give Kevin Owens the U.S. title while he's in NXT, and they haven't brought him up to full roster yet. So I guess we'll see what'll happen there.
Well,
but
I got to say something, Fanny. I was talking to Pappy Snook, and I was like, Pappy, did you hear about Kevin Owens versus John Cena? He goes, yes, I did, boy. You know what I do? I read the newspapers, I watch the TV, but you don't think I know anything? And he was trying to beat me. I don't know what's happening there. I guess I asked the wrong question. Who knows? But he did make a good point in one situation there, and he said, imagine the U.S. belt at NXT. Oh, and I was like, I had a revelation there, saying, what happens if the John Cena lost and Kevin Owens took it and brought it to NXT?
That might be a good secondary belt for their singles.
That might be a good controversy thing.
I think that's. I like that idea.
My mind is hurting. My brain hurt.
Well, let's move on, because they did also set the dominoes in place for the main event for Elimination Chamber, which will be Seth Rollins with his crappy pedigree and all versus Dean Ambrose. And I have to love the setup for this. They just had Dean Ambrose swagger into the office when they're doing their little celebration thing, and he offers Seth to give him a rematch against himself, but only if he puts the world title on the line. And Seth was like,
as if he was giving him, as if they were throwing him a bone.
exactly. And Seth, of course, told him to get lost. You had your little Seth Rollins appreciations, and I like how they threw it back to when Seth had taken him out with the cinder blocks, and Dean had thoughtfully brought some cinder blocks out and basically blackmailed the Authority into giving him the match that he wanted. And so, hey, I am all for Seth Rollins versus Dean Ambrose, but here's the problem. They have a tendency to job Dean Ambrose out on these pay-per-views. He had like a four or five pay-per-view streak where he lost every match he was in. I would really like to see Dean take this, and then somehow they do some chicanery the next night on Raw. But
now, Jackie got me. I think Jackie got me the right information here. I could have swore he won against what's his face in Elimination Chamber.
Oh, he did. He did
I mean,
win
at Extreme Rules. I mean,
he did win against Luke Harper, but before that, all the pay-per-views he was on, he's lost almost every one of them. He lost the ladder match at WrestleMania. He lost whatever match he was at Fastlane. He was in the Royal Rumble and lost, but that doesn't really count. There were a couple of other matches, but he went on quite the losing streak, which was all circumstances and because he's crazy. But we'll see what they do. It seems like they've really, really hit their stride with Dean Ambrose. They threw him out of nowhere into that championship match at the pay-per-view, and everyone ate it up. So hopefully they're going to stand up and they're going to see that this guy's a player. But with that said,
they definitely liked how he's doing his thing because Raw was hilarious with that.
Yeah. I mean, he's a funny dude, but he can also turn up the serious. He's like a better-looking Mick Foley.
I probably agree there, especially when it comes to how he's making himself more available to the WWE universe by making himself more of a people's person with that lunatic fridge kind of deal that he's going on there with. So I'm looking forward to how that match is going to come. But not as much as that tag team elimination chamber, because as the 20-time IWA champion, that's probably going to be the more exciting one. Now, the only thing I have to probably say that's left of Raw that we really, really enjoyed was the defection of Lana to Rusev.
Yeah, well, they looks like they're pairing her off with Dolph Ziggler, and I can't say that I am opposed to this. I like this. This is a good way to go.
I like the kissing.
I just like Lana. I forget the kissing. Yeah. I just like Lana, and I just think she's one of the more compelling characters they have on there.
The only thing I find amusing is why does Dolph Ziggler's female managers always have to have a relationship with him?
Maybe he's just not professional.
Or did we forget that he's technically married to Vicky Guerrero?
Not married.
Oh, no?
He was a boy toy.
That's Edge.
He was a boy toy. Yeah,
you're right. That wasn't Jackie's fault this time, folks. That was my fault.
But now that we've got to that, we can get to probably the best pay-per-view that happened over the last month and a half, and that was NXT Takeover Unstoppable. And they had to start off the match because they had to explain out. Unfortunately, Hatami, man, he did something bad to his arm. He's going to be out 6 to 8 months, and so they had to write him straight out of the match. So right out of the gate, we got Finn Balor versus Prince Pretty, Tyler Breeze, in a number one contenders match. And
Now, folks, before we go into anything further, now you and I, the fans and I, have expressed our love for the NXT universe in multiple ways, but this is technically the first time that we definitely talking about an actual pay-per-view and their matches. So just for people that are pure, I would say purists of the WWE universe, NXT is an off-brand association, kind of like the nuclear plants back in the day for the WWE universe. The only exception to this rule now is that they made them their own syndication on the WWE network. Is that when it comes to the NXT, they are rising, and in this case, most definitely approaching beyond the baby's Raw and SmackDown shows are going because of the character development and the people on that show, and they make it sweet. The matches are straightforward. The plan outs of how they do the moves in the matches are very technical and very vibrant. Very, very little dramatic or vignette scenarios that are not needed, and division is 30,000 times better than the Divas division ever could possibly be. And that's funny because most of the NXT. So it's either it was because of a cross development writing issue with the WWE universe, or they see a whole different light when they become a diva. I'm not quite sure, but that is pretty much how you're going to see and hopefully feel the same way we do when we talk about these matches coming up. And the first one is what Faded Saint was talking about: Finn Balor versus the Prince of Pretty. In this case, my man over there. When it comes to Tyler Breeze. Now, as far as it goes in that match, the first thing we got to talk about is how these people come out. For folks that don't really watch NXT, Tyler Breeze comes out, in this case, in a way that involves him and a selfie stick and him with a live feed cast to the audience of him walking and looking at his face, because he's called the Prince of Pretty for a reason, folks. He's a handsome man, and he sure doesn't shy about it.
Think Rick the Model Martel, if Rick the Model Martel had the technology that we have these days.
Very, very astute there, Faded Saint. Exactly how that would be. Now, as far as he goes now, that match versus Finn Balor. Now, Finn Balor is a really good bloke from Ireland who has this very good ability with paintbrushes on his body when it comes to his pay-per-view matches, because he came out with a stellar airbrushing tattoo on his back with of an eye coming out of the back of his back, and his face as usual, where his chin and chest is a large monstrous mouth of teeth and gnarliness.
He has the best entrance in wrestling today. Period.
That is also very true. He uses the lighting and the intro to make it look like he's this grandiose monster coming to the ring, and he proves it very well.
Yes, he does. He absolutely does. And this match was knockdown, drag out from the get-go. I mean, these guys both can go. And it was back and forth. A lot of Breeze trying to get one up on Finn. Breeze at one point actually hit his finisher, the bunny shot, and Finn managed to get himself out of it on the 2 count. And then, sure enough, he capitalizing on Breeze's, on poor Tyler's frustration, got him down on the mat, hit him with the coup de grace, which, for those of you who doesn't know, is a double stomp from the top rope. And wow, does that not look painful? That looks god-awful.
It certainly does.
I wouldn't want to take that move.
Not at all. That, folks, if just to recap on the coup de grace, it's a top rope move where he pretty much jumps on your chest with his 2 feet.
Oh man, it's horrible.
It's a butthurt.
Oh yeah, totally. But
that match went on for a little bit, and it was for the number 1 contendership to the NXT Championship, which we talked about, which is Kevin Owens. Mm-hmm. Now, in this case, when it comes to them, they did a phenomenal match. I mean, the whole crowd loved them, and everything worked so well throughout the whole scenario, and eventually we got Just Deserves with Finn Balor becoming the number 1 contender.
Which is, he's a fan favorite, so there we go with that. And that brought us along to a women's match next. We had Bayley and Charlotte, and that's Charlotte Flair, for those of you out there, the daughter of Nature Boy Ric Flair, versus Emma and Dana Brooks. Is that what they're calling her, Dana Brooks?
100%. Now, as far as it goes, folks, now we know how we usually like to joke about how a women's match happened in a pay-per-view for WWE, but here we go for the lady fans, those 6 viewers out there. We're actually going to talk in great detail about the 2 women matches that happened, because these were actual matches, give or take what you think is the perception of the women's world of the WWE.
Well, Bayley and Charlotte brought it up, and they're probably 2 of the best 4 divas, and all 4 of the best divas in the entire WWE are all on the NXT roster. Emma was brought up to the main roster and then kicked back down because, well, nobody really got her character. They've turned her heel. I'm liking heel Emma. That kind of feels like more her speed. Dana Brooks is there, but she hasn't really been around a whole lot, so I'll get it. A lot of this match was Bayley being in peril. Or no, it wasn't. It was Charlotte being in peril, wasn't it? While Emma and Dana beat the hell out of her, and then got over and got the tag to Bayley, and between the 2 of them, they cleaned up, and it was a phenomenal match. I mean, I would put this match up against any one of the matches on the Payback pay-per-view, and it did better. bar none.
100%. And in this case, when it comes to the match too, it was very justly a good one. Now, in this case, just to let you know, the reason why this tag team match happened though was actually because of the rivaling that is going on. Bailey's been having a big issue with Emma. Emma apparently does not like how these nice girls exist in the NXT, because when she went to WWE, being a nice girl, they pretty much shit canned her back into the NXT now. So
And
that is
Bailey's a
going on.
hugger.
Yep, and she's the hugger, and I wouldn't mind getting a hug from her, by the way.
Oh, no.
But
no.
in this case, when it comes to Charlotte and Dana, it's just pure athleticism. Charlotte has to be the best women's champion, the best women wrestler right now of NXT in the WWE universe now. And Dana does not like that, because she is a former bodybuilder from the Schwarzenegger bodybuilding competitions, and she thinks that strength and agility is no match for pure brawn and power that Dana brings to the NXT universe.
Dana and Charlotte look damn cut. I would not want to meet any of them in a dark alley. Hell no.
Definitely not. I would definitely use Charlotte as my bodyguard.
Personally, I would have wished, and I know that they kind of stuck all of them together because, pacing and all of that. I would have honestly have just been happy if we could have just had each of these women with their respective rivals just in a singles match. But as a tag match, it worked very well as well. Bayley and Charlotte worked very well together. They've done a couple of programs with each other, both as opponents and as tag partners. Emma is quirky. If you've seen her on WWE TV, you know that she can be funny. But heel Emma, I'm liking more. And Dana, well, we haven't seen a whole lot of her, but we won't hold that against her. She had a solid match, and like I said, one of the better matches of the entire week. And then that will bring us to, and I know I have the order reversed, so we're going to go with Rhino Corbin next, because that was the actual next one, because I flipped them on our little schedule. We do actually block all of these out. We just sometimes don't care.
Yeah, we go off the ropes, kids.
Yeah, we go through the ropes most of the time. But
if anything, it's like that, definitely.
The Man Beast Rhino
yeah.
versus Baron Corbin. This was the only match I didn't like. This really was.
Well, let's look at this. This is definitely a development match, folks. Now, we all know who Rhino is. He's graced the NXT universe by joining up with them and pretty much having a very good bout with a couple of the NXT stars, mostly to raise their character development or at least show off that the NXT universe is not just about development. It's also about a brand. And in this case, they are showing that pretty good now. So when it comes to what's going on with them, I can see why Rhino and Corbin had to have that match, because Corbin is the Goldberg effect, where if you remember WCW, Goldberg couldn't put a match past 4 minutes, and it was because he just was not technical enough. And we had that match with William Regal versus Goldberg several years ago when they realized that he cannot go past 4 minutes. He's a horrible wrestler. So
Regal nearly got fired over that match.
Pretty much. And in this case, when it comes to Corbin, now, even though he's a good wrestler, for some reason he's been trapped into that Goldberg effect. And I guess they just needed that development to show that he can do long matches, and Rhino was that proof.
And, Corbin goes over Rhino. I really wasn't expecting it to go the other way around, because Rhino, I believe, is really there to help the new talent develop. And Rhino's gracious enough to do this, and I'm sure they're paying him very handsomely to do it.
It's better than being punished by being a trainer.
Yeah, well, being a trainer's not a bad gig. I mean, they've got Albert as the head trainer now.
Well, let's look at this now, folks. Now, this is where me and Fade State might disagree now. Trainers are just like the gym teachers of the WWE universe. If you can't teach, teach. If you can't teach well, be a gym teacher, and that's the trainers.
Well, that's what they might be looking for Daniel Bryan if he can't come back, but that's another story altogether. I mean,
well, that's an exception to the rule then, right. There, Fade.
But I mean, Corbin over Rhino, yeah, pretty much what he said is true. Pretty much the guy doesn't talk. He has 30-second matches. His thing is, like, the crowd will count. His matches are so quick.
Yes.
Had a nice little outing with Rhino. His longer outings haven't been really all of that impressive, but this is better. He's getting better. Hopefully he'll be ready for prime time soon, and he can develop a personality, because really he just has, I'm a guy with a leather jacket. That's his gimmick right now.
And his intro's not that bad now. Fane saying he's not bad with the intro.
His intro's is not bad, but he's an intro. He's an elbow. He's the Into Days, which is kind of like a swinging reverse sidewalk slam downward spiral move, and that's
Hopefully we can have a picture of it in midair for you guys to see there.
I'll see.
But
what I can
it's
do.
cray.
But then that brought us to Enzo and Cass versus Blake and Murphy, and I'm gonna go on record.
Real boys in the house, how you doing?
What the hell is Swaft? I don't get that.
Soft, not Swaft. Soft.
I don't care. What the hell is it?
Well, you know what? I have to say, being a resident of the hometown of this fine trio of Enzo and Kaz and the pretty girl herself,
Camilla,
being from Staten Island resident now, and them being a Staten Island resident, I could give you a little bit of a briefing now there for you, because I know in New Orleans they don't have that kind of language. But when it comes to the Italian kind of lifestyle of Staten Island and the bra lifestyle, where you're big bros in that world, soft is kind of like a term that you would use for someone who's very weak, doesn't have a good stature of fighting, and in this case is someone who just will be pushed over very easily. And for them, it's perfect, because when it comes to most of their matches, their opponents become soft.
Yeah.
So it's really
I
good.
see what they did there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And of course, you got to bring that Staten Island accent. It's coffee. And instead of coffee, it's coffee. So kind of instead of soft, it's soft.
Wait, it's Kofi? What is Kofi doing in your coffee?
No, coffee, not Kofi.
Oh.
Coffee.
Well, anyway. But I had on the other side of that match the tag team champions, Blake and Murphy, and they're a team. Like, that's like their gimmick, is like they're two guys that happen to be a tag team and just happen to have gotten the titles. Like,
the question is, why do they have the titles?
They won it from the Lucha Dragons, and they were glorified jobbers before then. And then it's just like, hey, Blake and Murphy, look at them. And it's just like, okay, look at them. And this was a pretty good match. The story of the match was basically Enzo, who was the much shorter of his team, was basically got the ever-loving crap beaten out of him by Blake and Murphy. Big Cass, who was a pretty damn big guy.
7 foot, can't tease that.
Right. And he got tagged in. He cleared house. Now, this is what I don't understand in the psychology of things. Enzo was damn near dead in the corner. Cass tags him in, drags him to a corner to launch him off. And I know that's their finisher move, is that launch pad.
Empire drop, yep.
Right. But why would you do that when your guy... It was near unconscious. That just seemed like a hiccup in the match. And then, of course, Alexa Bliss, who is like 2'3", and made of pixie dust, came out
and looks like Jenna Marbles.
Yeah, I guess he kind of does. Anyway, she comes down because she and Camilla had a thing. Basically, knocks out Camilla, distracts Cass. Who goes out to check on Camilla. She runs around, pushes Enzo, who's been left pretty much lifeless on that top rope, off, and Blake and Murphy get a roll-up win. And apparently Blake and Murphy and Alexa are a thing. So, hooray? Is that a hooray?
I don't know. All I know is that Blake and Murphy got the same haircuts from Sheamus's barbershop, and they're horrible tag team champions. As a 21-time IWA champion, I can tell you they're horrible champions. And I was so really hoping that Enzo and Taz would have gotten that and would have been the best tag team champions of all time.
You know, I have to honestly say this, and stop me if I'm wrong here. Blake and Murphy with the stupid haircuts that they walked out with, do they not remind you of Lenny Lane and Lodi, the West Hollywood blondes from back in the old WCW before they got in trouble and they made them standards and practices?
I can tell you this much: I might have to talk to Pappy Snook about that little historical record, but I'll take your word for it.
So bad. Anyway, getting from the bad Next, we get to, in my estimations, this wasn't the actual main event, but in my estimations, this actually was, and we'll get into that after. But Sasha Banks, the boss, versus Becky Lynch, and oh my God,
For the Women's Championship, by the way.
for the NXT Women's Championship, and oh my God, these two put everyone to shame. This match was better than the 4-way at the pay-per-view. This match was better than the tag team match at the pay-per-view, at the last pay-per-view even. This match was probably better.
Award-winning. Award-winning. I'll give you that.
This match was probably so far the match of the year. And you've got Sasha Banks, who is the champion, and she used to be in a faction called the BFFs with Summer Rae. We all know Summer Rae. We wish we didn't, but we all know that she's there. And Charlotte, and she won off of her former BFF Charlotte in a 4-way match. Last pay-per-view, 2 pay-per-views ago, something like that. And she's been basically dominant ever since. Now, Becky was this, hey, I'm Irish, I rock and roll, hooray, fan favorite, until that just not working. Sasha got in her ear and said, is this really it? Is this what you're doing? And Becky kind of took an edge. They kind of aligned together. They were working together for a while. They had them, and then, Becky got the #1 contendership. And this was a great match. And this was not a bump fest. They had some bumps in there, but this wasn't like the crazy high spot city that you expect to see sometimes. This was a fundamental submission style match, and it was entertaining as hell. And these girls did better than 90% of the guys that are on the main roster.
You bet. 100%.
They sold the injuries. They sold the pain. You actually believed, they were in pain, and it didn't matter. I mean, Sasha went over on Becky, with that crazy off the top rope shoulder breaker right into the bank statement, which is a single arm cross breaker, crossface, and won. But goddamn, if you have not seen NXT at all, that's the match you need to start with right there, and you'll be sold. And
that's the episode. The whole pay-per-view is a great send-off to understand the NXT universe.
Any of the pay-per-views, really, because they've all been phenomenal, but that was the match of the night, if not the match of the year. And I mean, I can't do anything but gush about this match. And this is kind of why we get all, like he was saying at the beginning, this is why we get a little aggravated with the way they treat the divas. And we don't mean to be dismissive. We are not.
Saints are coming in. Preach, brother, preach.
We like divas matches. It's just we like matches and less divas. And we like it when they get the time. Sasha and Becky had what? They gave them like 30 minutes to do a match, and they went the distance. It was excellent. And if they did the same thing with the main roster, we would make time to give the divas a match. But as it stands, it doesn't. If you want to watch divas wrestling, watch NXT. Simple, easy.
It's kind of the reverse of the damn too. It's so sad when you want them to stay in NXT, but you so desirably want them in the WWE and Raw and SmackDown, because I feel like when we bring them to Raw and SmackDown, these writers will just throw them into the Divas world and make them lose all of their credit that they've earned so very gracefully in the NXT universe.
Well, it is. But let's go ahead and let's get to the last part of the night, and this was kind of a letdown, which was Kevin Owens.
Semi-letdown, folks. Semi-letdown.
Semi-letdown. Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. The story going into this was 2 pay-per-views back. Sami Zayn won the title, and his best friend Kevin Owens, who had debuted earlier in the night, was there to celebrate with him, jumped him. Go back to the last pay-per-view. Kevin Owens destroyed Sami Zayn. Won the title by referee stoppage. Destroy. And this wasn't like earlier where we were talking about Cena passing out. This was just brutal.
Like, he's dead, stop.
Exactly.
Kind of situation.
And the story going into this match is that Sami had previously on Raw accepted the U.S. Open challenge by John Cena and had a phenomenal match with John Cena. It was so awesome. but he ended up tweaking his arm. And this was an arm that he had already had problems with, but made it bad. Long story short, he was cleared to wrestle, but he's looking at getting some surgery. We're really looking at 3 to 4 months to seeing Sammy back. And so they kind of had to work around that. Sammy out the gate was all Sammy. And it was all Sammy right up until the point they were outside of the ring and he got caught for that pop-up powerbomb on the ring apron. And then you kind of knew what was going to happen. It was pretty much Kevin Owens being pushed back by the referees. It was a solid 10 minutes of that, which it drug on forever. And he'd come back and he'd kick him, and then finally he dragged Sammy into the ring. And before we go on, that was kind of a letdown, but if you knew how hurt Sami Zayn was, you kind of expected something like that. But at least they came up spades when it came to what happened next. I mean, they had William Regal come out. He's the GM of NXT, and pull him off. Owens was not having any of it, so Regal grabbed him by the face to pull him off. Regal got headbutted, and I expect we're gonna hear some about that come next week.
Oh yeah.
But then you hear those horns and that deathly theme, and who should walk out on stage but Samoa Joe?
My Lord, the resurrection of Christ itself couldn't be better.
The fans forgot who Kevin Owens was, and these guys have been
The fans
really,
forgot Sami Zayn existed.
They
That's how good that was for Samoa Joe to come out.
The entire arena was Joe's gonna kill you, and although nothing happened, there was no actual fight. Kevin Owens, shrinked off. It was still a really cool moment, and considering that they couldn't give the match that they wanted, was a really good way to end things. And that was pretty much the pay-per-view in a nutshell. Now, once again, what do you think, Kane? Letter grade for Unstoppable. What do you think it got?
Oh, I'm going to have to be a tad biased here. I have to go with a full A. Full-on assault A. Minus I even though you disagree with Rhino and Corbin, I think that was still a great development character match. And the whole setup for all the matches were enriching as usual. So I got to definitely give them a solid A.
I have to agree with you there. Solid A. You can't complain. Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch by themselves. It just made this pay-per-view a B, and then everything else just piled up on top of it. Just based on the one match, made most of the pay-per-view. Every other match could have sucked in that match, and they still would have gotten a B just for Sasha and Becky.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Great match.
Absolutely.
Impeccable.
So, real quickly, let's go ahead and what do we think is going to happen? We're looking forward to Elimination Chamber, because obviously that's going to be the next pay-per-view. We know 4 matches, so what do we think is going to happen on these matches? What do you think?
Well, folks, I got to tell you this much. When it comes to the future of WWE, I was predicting this for hour after WrestleMania, and how they're just creating strong character developments into each individual scenarios that are not focusing on Brock Lesnar or focusing on John Cena as much, and it's great. Everything is starting to unfold pretty well. Ambrose is going to be a rising star, and I have a good feeling that even with the Elimination Chamber being a mid-segue match for them to add him, I think we're going to see a lot more promise when we see Money in the Bank and even Survivor Series when we get into the late summer nights. So we don't know what's definitely going to go on, but I can tell you this much. As far as the future goes, everything's rolling into place. And the graduation of NXT characters from when WrestleMania 31 happened, even better, because Neville is going to soon see a title match no matter what's going to happen. And I think we're going to start seeing Sami Zayn eventually if we're going to have the Samoa Joe Kevin Owens scenario. So Sami Zayn might actually start coming up on Raw and SmackDown now. Well,
after surgery, of course.
Of course.
But hey, I can't say anything but positive things. I think they're stretching a little thin with the 3 pay-per-views in 6 weeks. I'm not a fan of that. But
do the WWE Network. I think they could pull it off now, because technically you can't watch the Elimination Chamber on TV pay-per-view. You have to watch it on the network.
Yep, it is exclusive to the network. Real fast, let's go through let's do some quick predictions on the 4 matches. Tag team elimination chamber. Who do you think wins?
Oh, well, I am praying for Kid Cesaro, but the underdog love of mine secretly would definitely be the Lucha Dragons.
I'm gonna go. I'm just gonna go crazy here. I'm gonna say the primetime players pull it out, just because
They better. They haven't seen a match in forever.
they have not. They have not had a match. They've just been doing vignettes on Raw. That's like their thing now. They just do it in vignettes. Hooray for them! And make fun of all the other tag teams. But hey, if they can come back and be entertaining and be a good tag team again, I liked them back in the day. I don't think they should have broke them up, but they tend to do things a little bit earlier. All right. IC Elimination Chamber match. Who do you think comes out?
Well, if there's no Neville, I couldn't tell you. But I mean, if I had to put my thumb on it, I probably would like to see Dolph Ziggler take it. But I think if they're gonna keep doing what they're doing, most likely Sheamus is gonna win.
I think we've got too many heels with belts. I'm gonna say one of the faces are gonna pull it out. And let's see. It's not going to be R-Truth, that's for damn sure. I'd like to. You know what? I'm going to have to go. I'm going to have to go Dolph. Dolph's the only one that makes sense. I don't think they're going to put the IC belt on Ryback. I just don't. The IC belt does not scream Ryback.
All right, I'll give that.
The U.S. Champion match. John Cena versus Kevin Owens.
Well, we all know we can't beat Superman. So
you can't beat Superman.
I mean, in this case, I would love to say Kevin Owens because I just love watching him hurt people like that.
Mm-hmm.
But we all know John Cena's gonna take that home.
Yep. And finally, the main event: the Seth Rollins, the champion, versus Dean Ambrose.
Now, I'm all favor of the Lunatic Fringe winning, but I predicted this a while ago, and that is that we're going to expect a reigning heel event for Seth Rollins until Brock Lesnar returns. So I think we're just going to see Seth Rollins oil snake his way out of every match possible and still win as the WWE champion.
I say Seth wins 2. Dean goes on, wins Money in the Bank this year.
Oh, that would be pretty nice.
That's what I think. That's my
Sneaky.
that is my extended. And you might as well. Do you have we don't even know who's going to participate in the match. Who would you like to see win Money in the Bank? I've already said Dean Ambrose. Who do you think that briefcase would work the best for?
It's so tough these days.
Or actually, who do you think they're going to go with? Is a better question.
Well, here's my problem. And this might be something that's just my only problem, but I don't feel there's a lot of contenders for the WWE champion right now. Like, I can't see Dolph Ziggler winning the Money in the Bank. I can't see Ryback winning Money in the Bank. I can't see any of these mid-carders, throwing themselves up there like Seth Rollins did. I really can't tell you. I really need to find out who's going to be in the match before making that decision.
I only see 3 ways it goes. Dean Ambrose wins it. Roman Reigns wins it. Brock Lesnar steals it.
That would be a sick one. Coming out as the mayor of Suplex City and going right into Money in the Bank to win it outright nowhere. That sounds like a dream.
I don't even say he's in the match. I say he just shows up, kills everyone mid match, and then takes the contract. And that's
I could tell you this much, Face Saint. If that happens, then we know somebody from the WWE versus you is watching or listening to our show, because I know that the other 6 viewers would definitely not spread that kind of word around.
Well, yep. And I think that's going to about do it for us this week. We would like to thank everyone who is listening. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our podcast. If you have any questions or anything to say, any comments, you can go ahead and hit us up. I am at Faded Saint. I am also on the Tumblr at commizite.tumblr.com. And of course, if you have any questions for Kane, just hit me up. He's in the parts unknown. They don't get Tumblr there.
The internet does not like the Twitter.
No, the internet does not like the Twitter. The internet doesn't like the broadcast sometimes, but we work around it. So, with that said, next time, Super Show, Elimination Chamber, and Money in the Bank. And, well, I'm your boy, Common the Faded Saint.
And I am Kane Super What Snooker, the 21-time IWA champion.
And we'll see you on the next show.
Later, folks.
Wow.